Realistically, attaching a paperclip to a piece of paper or a photo is not hard. It's just a matter of making sure you get the shadowing right. Let me show you how it works in Photoshop Elements. The instructions are the same for Adobe Photoshop unless otherwise noted. Begin in Expert mode of Photoshop Elements by creating a new blank document at 300 pixels per inch with a white background. My document is 12 by 12 inches because that's typically the size of a scrapbook that I create. Then you'll want to open a small photo. I'm using this photo of a bird. You can find this bird photo in the downloads for this video. With the Move tool, click on the photo, then holding down the Shift key, click and drag the photo onto the document. After you let go of the mouse, you can let go of the Shift key, and the photo should land right in the center. Next, open a paperclip. I'm using this paperclip by Melissa Renfro. You can also find it in the downloads. Again, with the Move tool, click and drag the paperclip onto the new document, holding down the Shift key, let go of the paperclip, then let go of the Shift key. Next, I'll zoom into the document by pressing Ctrl+ or Command+ on a Mac. In the Layers panel, you can see that the paperclip layer is the active layer. On the document, I'm going to click and drag directly on that paperclip and move it up so that it's just overlapping the photo. Regardless of what kind of paperclip you're using, there should be two bottom bars. I want both of these bottom bars to be overlapping the photo. Next, we'll add a shadow to the photo layer. So in the Layers panel, click on the photo layer to activate it. Then in the menu bar, choose Layer, Layer Style, Style Settings. For instructions on how to add a drop shadow in Adobe Photoshop, check the manual. In the dialog box, click on Drop Shadow to twirl it open. I'll set the lighting angle to 120 degrees, the size to 8 pixels, the distance to 5 pixels, the opacity to 50%, and the color chip should be black. Then click OK to close the dialog box. Now that the photo is realistically shadowed, let's work on the paperclip. The first thing I'm going to do is to hide the bottom bar of the clip behind the photo. To do that, in the Layers panel, click on the paperclip layer to activate it. Then click on the Add Layer Mask icon. Next, hold down the Control key or the Command key on a Mac and click on the thumbnail of the photo layer to put a selection outline around the photo. Next, get the Brush tool. In the Tool options, open the Brush Preset Picker and choose a hard round brush from the default set of brushes. In Adobe Photoshop, choose a hard round brush from the legacy brushes. Also in the Tool options, set the opacity to 100% and the mode to normal. On the document, zoom in a little bit farther on that paperclip, and then hover your cursor over the clip until you can see the outline of the brush. Press the right bracket key to make the brush larger and the left bracket key to make the brush smaller. You want the brush to be twice as wide as one of the wires in the clip. Now, before we brush, there's two things to check. First of all, the foreground color chip needs to be black. If it's not, press the letter X. And second, click on that layer mask of the paperclip layer to make sure that it's active. If it is active, you'll see a blue or black line around it. Then on the document, click and drag to remove the inside wire of the paperclip. Then press Ctrl-D, Command-D on a Mac to deselect. After I zoom out by pressing Ctrl- or Command- on a Mac, you can see that the paperclip is starting to look like it's wrapping behind and in front of the photo. But now we need to do a little custom shadow work. Begin by going into the Layers panel and clicking on the thumbnail of the paperclip layer. If you have an action for a custom shadow, now would be the time to use it. If you don't have an action, here's how to create a custom shadow step by step. Holding down the Alt key in Windows or the Option key on a Mac, click and drag the paperclip layer down, and that'll create a duplicate layer below the original layer. Next, right-click in Windows or Control-click on a Mac on the layer mask of that new layer and choose Apply Layer Mask. Next, press the letter D to reset the color chips to the default of black over white, and then press Shift-Alt-Backspace in Windows or Shift-Option-Delete on a Mac to fill the pixels of that new layer with black. Then in the menu bar, choose Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. In the dialog box, set the radius to 3 pixels and then click OK. Next, get the Move tool. Using your keyboard arrow keys, nudge the shadow down several clicks and to the right several clicks. The number of clicks that you need to make with your arrow keys completely depends on the size of your document and how far you're zoomed in. But typically, the farther down and to the right that you place your shadow will directly correlate to how far the paperclip appears to be lifted off the page. Okay, now we're going to need to soften that shadow. So in the Layers panel, with the shadow layer as the active layer, lower the opacity of that shadow, clear down to around 50%. Okay, now if you used an action, this is where you need to jump back into the instructions. We could stop now, but let me show you the problem. I'll zoom in a couple more times. And on the document, you can see that the shadow of the paperclip is slightly overlapping the image. In real life, this simply wouldn't happen. And it is going to make your paperclip look unprofessional and unrealistic. So here's the super slick way to fix that. Holding down the Alt key in Windows or the Option key on a Mac, click on the layer mask of the paperclip layer and drag a copy of it down to the shadow layer. Did you notice how that shadow disappeared when we did that? Watch it one more time. Here it was before, and here it is now. So that's how you create a realistically shadowed paperclip. Here's the scrapbook page I created using my photo and clip. If you'd like written step-by-step instructions for this tutorial, you'll find them in the manual included in the download. If you enjoyed this tutorial, you'll find many more videos like this within the classes in our classroom. To increase your skills with custom shadowing, check out Linda Satgast's classes, Custom Shadow Mastery 1 and 2. For help with the selection tools in Adobe Photoshop and Photoshop Elements, you'll love my classes Selections 1 and Selections 2. You'll find the links to these classes in the manual. This has been Jen White with DigitalScrapper and Quick Learn.